Marcus worked the night shift at Riverside Medical Center, and he had been doing this job for almost 5 years now. Every night, he pushed his cleaning cart through the empty corridors of the hospital while most people were sleeping soundly in their beds. He was a man that nobody really noticed. People walked past him without seeing him, without acknowledging his presence. He was just another face in a uniform, another invisible worker who kept the hospital clean and running. Marcus didn't mind this much anymore. He had accepted his life as it was, quiet and simple, without any excitement or drama. On this particular night, Marcus was working in the basement parking garage around 2 o'clock in the morning. The garage was silent except for the sound of his mop moving across the concrete floor. The fluorescent lights hummed above him, casting long shadows across the empty parking spaces. He was pushing his cleaning cart slowly, thinking about nothing in particular, when suddenly the entire world seemed to shake beneath his feet. A terrible sound split the night sky. It was like nothing Marcus had ever heard before, a crack so loud and powerful that it echoed through the garage and made the overhead lights flicker. The sound was followed immediately by an enormous impact that made the concrete beneath him vibrate violently. Marcus's hands instinctively gripped his mop handle to steady himself. His heart began beating very fast. He looked up toward the ceiling, wondering what could have caused such a massive noise. For a few seconds nothing happened. Then Marcus saw it. Through the open section of the parking garage where vehicles entered and exited, he caught a glimpse of something extraordinary. A brilliant blue light was fading against the dark night sky. It was moving downward, leaving a trail of blue fire across the clouds. The light was so bright and so beautiful that Marcus found himself unable to look away. He had never seen anything like it in his entire life. Without thinking much about what he was doing or whether it was safe, Marcus abandoned his cleaning cart right there in the middle of the garage. He moved quickly toward the emergency stairs that led up to the roof level of the parking garage. His legs carried him faster than they usually moved, driven by curiosity and a sense that something truly important was happening. He had the strange feeling that his life was about to change in some way he couldn't yet understand. When Marcus reached the roof level and stepped outside, he immediately saw the source of the impact. There was a large crater in the asphalt, still smoking and glowing with residual heat. The edges of the crater were blackened and burnt. Small stones and pieces of debris were scattered all around it. And in the very center of this crater lay a figure, a person or at least something that looked like a person. Marcus approached slowly, carefully, not knowing what to expect. As he got closer, he realized that this was definitely not an ordinary human being. The figure was a young woman, or appeared to be one, but her appearance was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen before. Her skin had a strange quality to it. It seemed to shimmer and glow slightly, almost translucent in some places. It was a pale blue color, like moonlight reflecting off water. Her clothing was equally strange. It looked like it was made of a material that didn't exist on Earth, something that seemed to shift between silver and deep blue when the light hit it at different angles. The fabric appeared both solid and liquid at the same time, which made Marcus's mind struggle to understand what he was looking at. Despite her alien appearance, the woman was clearly breathing. She was unconscious, her eyes closed, her face peaceful and calm as if she was simply sleeping. There was a thin line of glowing liquid running from the corner of her mouth, but otherwise she appeared to be unharmed. Marcus could see no obvious injuries or wounds on her body. Marcus stood there for several minutes, simply staring down at this impossible creature. He knew what the right thing to do was. He should go back inside the hospital immediately and report this to the authorities. He should tell the police, the military, or whoever was supposed to handle something like this. That was what any sensible person would do. That was what he should do. But something inside Marcus stopped him from doing the sensible thing. Perhaps it was the way her face was so peaceful despite the violence of her fall from the sky. Perhaps it was some fundamental human instinct to help another living being who was in need. Perhaps it was simply that Marcus had lived such a quiet, unremarkable life that he couldn't pass up this opportunity to do something meaningful and important. Whatever the reason was, Marcus made a decision that would change everything. He bent down carefully and lifted the woman into his arms. He was surprised by how light she was, almost weightless, as if she was made of something far less dense than human bone and flesh. He held her close to his body to keep her warm and moved back toward the emergency stairs. He had to be very careful because he didn't want to drop her or cause her any injury. Marcus carried her down through the stairwell and into the basement of the hospital. He knew this area well from his years of working here. He was familiar with all the hidden passages and forgotten rooms that most people never visited. He found his way to an old storage basement that hadn't been used for years. It was dark and dusty, filled with boxes of old medical equipment and forgotten supplies. Nobody ever came down here. It would be a safe place for her, at least for now. He found some clean linens and created a makeshift bed for her in a corner of the room, away from the main doorway. He carefully placed the woman on the bed, making sure her head was supported by a pillow. Then he found a first aid kit in one of the nearby cabinets and began to examine her more closely. Her wounds were minimal, and Marcus noticed something remarkable. Her skin seemed to be already healing itself, the injuries closing up even as he watched. Whatever this woman was, she was far stronger and more resilient than any human being could ever be. Marcus sat beside her through the rest of the night, watching her breathe, wondering what she was and where she had come from. He knew that his life had changed forever, and he had no idea what would happen next. But for the first time in many years, Marcus felt truly alive and filled with purpose. 3 days had passed since Marcus first found the strange woman in the parking garage crater. For 3 days, he had been sneaking down to the basement storage room during his breaks and after his shifts ended. He brought water, food, and clean clothes that he had carefully collected from the hospital's lost and found box. He changed her bandages, though he noticed they hardly seemed necessary. Her skin was healing itself at an impossible rate, almost like watching time move forward in fast motion. On the second day of her unconsciousness, the woman's eyes suddenly opened. They were unlike any eyes Marcus had ever seen. They were a deep violet color, almost purple, with hints of silver running through them like tiny lightning bolts. When she first looked at Marcus, there was confusion and fear in those strange eyes. She tried to move away from him, her body tensing up, ready to defend itself. "It is okay," Marcus said gently, keeping his hands visible and open to show that he meant no harm. "You are safe here. I am not going to hurt you." The woman stared at him for a long moment, studying his face carefully, as if she was trying to determine whether he was telling the truth or lying to her. Finally, she seemed to relax slightly, though her body remained tense and ready to react if necessary. "Where am I?" she asked. Her voice was beautiful and musical, like wind chimes playing in a soft breeze. But the way she spoke was strange and careful, as if she was reading each word from a script inside her mind. "You are in a basement storage room," Marcus replied. "In a hospital. You fell from the sky. I found you and brought you here to keep you safe." "My name?" she asked. Marcus hesitated. He realized he had no idea what her name was. "I do not know," he said. "What is your name?" The woman was quiet for a long moment, her violet eyes looking up at the ceiling. "Mira," she finally said. "My name is Mira." Over the following week, Marcus continued to visit Mira in the basement. Each day she became stronger and more alert. Her English improved remarkably fast, almost unnaturally fast. She seemed to be pulling words and phrases from somewhere deep inside her mind, as if she had been studying the language for a long time before she arrived. Mira asked Marcus endless questions about humanity and about Earth. She wanted to know about governments and how they made decisions. She asked about military structures and weapons. She asked about cultural values and social hierarchies. She asked about religion, art, music, and food. She asked about dreams and ambitions. Her questions were intelligent and penetrating, and Marcus found himself thinking very carefully about his answers. "Why do humans hurt each other?" Mira asked one evening as they sat together in the dim light of the basement. "Sometimes fear makes people hurt each other," Marcus replied. "Sometimes people want things that other people have. Sometimes it is just hate or misunderstanding." "But you helped me," Mira said, looking directly into his eyes. "You did not know what I was. You did not know if I was dangerous. Yet you helped me anyway." Marcus shrugged. It seemed like the right thing to do. As the days went on, Marcus found himself telling Mira about his life. He told her about growing up in a small town, about his parents who had passed away years ago, about how he had moved to the city to find a better life but had ended up working as a janitor. He told her about his dreams of being something more important, of doing something meaningful that would matter to people. He told her about the loneliness he sometimes felt, even when surrounded by people in the hospital. Mira listened to everything he said with complete attention. She never interrupted him. Her violet eyes tracked his face carefully, as if she was studying every expression, every emotion that crossed his features. She asked him questions about his feelings and his hopes for the future. When he spoke about his sadness or his disappointments, she seemed genuinely concerned. "Your species is fascinating," Mira said one night. "So much potential. So much capacity for kindness and for cruelty both at the same time. Humans are contradictions." Marcus laughed. "I guess we are. But I think that is what makes us interesting." "Yes," Mira agreed, nodding slowly. Interesting. As time passed, Marcus found himself falling into an easy companionship with Mira. It was strange because she was so obviously not human, so clearly from somewhere else entirely. Yet talking to her felt natural and comfortable. She had a way of listening that made him feel like his thoughts and feelings actually mattered to someone. For the first time in years, Marcus felt like he was not invisible anymore. Someone was paying attention to him. What Marcus did not know was that Mira was studying him as carefully as a scientist studies an interesting specimen under a microscope. Every question she asked was catalogued and analyzed in her mind. Every word he spoke was being recorded and evaluated. She was assessing humanity based on what she learned from Marcus. She was determining whether his species was worthy of first contact with her people, or whether they should be left alone, or whether they should be eliminated entirely as a potential threat. Marcus had no idea that the peaceful observer he had grown fond of was actually conducting an official diplomatic assessment of the entire human race. He did not know that his kindness to a stranger was being weighed against the entire history of human violence and destruction. He did not know that the fate of his entire species might depend on whether Mira decided that humanity was worth saving. All he knew was that he cared about this strange woman, and that she seemed to care about him too. That was enough for him. The first sign of trouble came on a Tuesday morning when Marcus heard the news on the hospital's radio. 3 people had gone missing from the neighborhood in the past week. A homeless man who usually slept near the park had disappeared. A young woman who jogged through the streets every morning had not come home. An old man who fed pigeons by the river had vanished without a trace. The police were investigating, but they had no leads and no explanations. It seemed strange that so many people would disappear in such a short amount of time. Marcus did not think much about it at first. Missing people happened in the city sometimes. People got lost or they decided to leave their lives behind. But then more people started to disappear. Within 2 weeks, there were reports of 5 more missing persons. The neighborhood was becoming anxious and afraid. People started locking their doors more carefully. They avoided going out at night. They warned their families to be cautious of strangers. Then the helicopters started appearing. They came at night, moving silently through the dark sky with their searchlights cutting through the darkness like bright knives. Military helicopters, Marcus could tell by their shape and the way they moved. They circled above the hospital and the surrounding buildings, their searchlights scanning the ground below. Marcus watched them from the hospital roof during his break, wondering what they were looking for. Were they searching for the missing people? Or were they searching for something else? The next day, Marcus noticed the black vans. They appeared without warning, parking near the main entrance of the hospital and near the back delivery areas. The vans were unmarked, with tinted windows that made it impossible to see inside. Men and women in dark suits began getting out of these vans. They wore sunglasses even though it was cloudy outside. They carried small devices on their belts and spoke into radios in low, urgent voices. Marcus recognized the pattern. He had seen this kind of thing in movies and television shows. These were agents of some kind searching for something or someone. They began asking questions to the hospital staff. They asked if anyone had noticed unusual patients coming through the emergency room. They asked if anyone had seen anything strange. They asked if anyone had seen a woman who matched a certain description, though they never said what that description was. One of the agents actually spoke to Marcus while he was cleaning the hallway near the hospital entrance. The agent was tall and serious, with a cold expression on his face. "Have you noticed anything unusual around here?" the agent asked. "Unusual how?" Marcus replied, trying to keep his voice normal and calm. "Anything strange. Anyone acting suspiciously. Anything that seems out of place." Marcus's heart was beating very fast, but he forced himself to speak in a steady voice. "No, nothing that I have noticed. Just the regular hospital stuff." The agent stared at him for a long moment, as if he was trying to look through Marcus and see inside his mind. Finally, he handed Marcus a card. "If you see anything unusual, call this number immediately. It is very important." When Marcus showed the card to Mira that night, her entire body went rigid with fear. Her violet eyes grew wide, and she stood up from the makeshift bed where she had been resting. "We have to leave," she said urgently. "We have to leave now. Tonight." "What is happening?" Marcus asked, confused by her sudden fear. "Who are these people?" "My people are not the only ones looking for me," Mira said, moving around the basement room quickly, gathering the few belongings she had. "There are others. There are species, Marcus. Other beings from other worlds. Some of them would pay enormous amounts of money to capture me. Others would pay to have me killed. I am valuable to many different factions, and not all of them want me alive." "Who are you really?" Marcus asked. He had wondered this question many times, but he had never asked it directly before. He had been afraid of the answer. You have to tell me the truth now. Mira looked at him with those strange violet eyes, and for a moment, Marcus thought she might refuse to answer. But then she spoke. I am someone important enough to be hunted, she said quietly. That is all you need to know right now. But Marcus, I will not endanger you any further. I will leave alone. I will find a way to contact my people and get off this planet. You can stay here and you will be safe. No, Marcus said firmly. You came to Earth. You trusted me even if it was only partially. I'm not going to leave you to face this alone. If they are coming for you, then they might come for me too now. We have to leave together. Mira stared at him for a long moment. Something seemed to change in her expression, as if she was seeing him in a different way now. You would risk everything for me? She asked. Even though you do not know who I really am? Yes, Marcus said simply. That night they made their escape. Marcus led Mira through the maintenance tunnels beneath the hospital, using his intimate knowledge of the building's hidden passages and forgotten corridors. They moved quietly through darkness, following the maps that Marcus had memorized during his years of working there. Behind them, they could hear the sounds of agents moving through the hospital, searching rooms and questioning staff members. But Marcus and Mira stayed ahead of them, moving like ghosts through the building's secret arteries. By the time the agents reached the basement storage room where Mira had been hiding, the room was empty. Marcus and Mira had disappeared into the city's underbelly, vanishing like shadows into the night. The agents found nothing but an empty room and the faint scent of something strange and otherworldly. The hunt had begun, but Marcus and Mira were already gone, disappearing into the darkness of the city where no one would think to look for them. They were no longer hiding. Now they were running. For 2 weeks, Marcus and Mira lived like ghosts moving through the city. They stayed in abandoned buildings that had been left empty for years. They hid in safe houses that belonged to people Marcus knew from the hospital who asked no questions when he explained that he needed a place to hide. They moved constantly, never staying in one location for more than 2 or 3 nights. Every day brought new dangers and new close calls. Every night, they wondered if the people hunting them would finally find them. During the first week, they narrowly escaped capture twice. Once, armed men arrived at a safe house just minutes after Marcus and Mira had left through the back door. Another time, black vans appeared on the street where they were walking, and Marcus had to pull Mira into a crowded shopping center to lose them in the crowds. The stress of constantly running was wearing on both of them. Marcus felt exhausted all the time. Mira seemed to be growing more and more tense and afraid. They found shelter in an old warehouse on the edge of the city, a place that had been abandoned since the factories closed down years ago. The warehouse was massive and mostly empty, with broken windows that let in pale light and cold wind. It was not comfortable, but it was hidden and it was safe for now. Marcus had found some old blankets and mattresses inside, and they had set up a temporary camp in one of the upper rooms. It was during their second week in the warehouse that they had their first real confrontation with the hunters. Marcus and Mira were in the warehouse when they heard the sound of vehicles approaching outside. Through the broken windows, they could see 3 black vans pulling up to the warehouse entrance. Men and women began pouring out of the vans, armed with weapons that looked nothing like any guns Marcus had ever seen. These weapons had strange glowing tips and made humming sounds. The hunters moved with military precision, spreading out and surrounding the warehouse. They have found us, Mira whispered, her voice shaking with fear. Marcus grabbed her hand. We have to get to the roof. There might be a way out. But before they could move, Mira suddenly stopped. She looked down at her wrist, where there was a small crystalline device that Marcus had never noticed before. It looked like it was made of glass or some kind of transparent stone. Mira's fingers moved across it, and suddenly it came to life, projecting holographic images into the air around them. What are you doing? Marcus asked. I have no choice, Mira replied, her voice steady now despite her fear. If I do not contact my people now, we will both be captured or killed. I have to activate the communication device. She pressed something on the crystalline object, and suddenly the warehouse filled with holographic light. A communication channel opened, connecting to something far away, somewhere in the vast emptiness of space. The holographic display showed a command center filled with tall, graceful beings that looked similar to Mira but appeared to be older and more powerful. They wore clothing that seemed to be made of pure light. Their faces were beautiful and terrible at the same time. The moment the communication connected, every single being in that holographic command center immediately bowed deeply. It was a gesture of absolute respect and submission. Marcus felt his mind struggling to understand what was happening. Your Majesty, they said in unison, their voices coming through the device in a language that somehow Marcus could understand, as if the device was translating it directly into his brain. "We have found you at last. Are you unharmed? Have you been captured? We are sending a retrieval team immediately." Marcus turned to look at Mira. "Your Majesty?" he repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. Myra's expression was calm now, as if she had accepted something that she had been avoiding. She spoke to the holographic beings in their language, rapid and flowing words that sounded like music but felt heavy with meaning. The beings listened carefully, and Marcus could see their reactions shift from relief to shock to something that looked like anger. Finally, Mira turned back to Marcus and began to explain. Her true name was Mirathel. She was the queen of the Valerian Collective, a civilization that controlled 17 star systems. She was the supreme ruler of her people, the sovereign authority over billions of lives. Her crash to Earth had not been an accident at all. It had been an assassination attempt by rival factions within her own government who wanted to take her throne and her power. She had survived the attack only because her ship had managed to get her into an escape pod before the sabotage became complete. Her mission to Earth had been classified in secret. She had been conducting an official diplomatic assessment of humanity, studying whether her people should make contact with Earth's civilizations or whether they should leave humanity alone in its development. She had been carefully observing human behavior, human culture, and human potential. Everything she had done, every question she had asked Marcus, had been part of that assessment. "So I was just research to you?" Marcus asked, feeling something break inside his chest. "I was just data? I helped you because I cared about you, and you were just studying me like I was some kind of animal?" "No," Mira said firmly, stepping closer to him. "That is what I was trained to do. That is my duty as queen. But it stopped being just research a long time ago, Marcus. When I was with you, I was not a queen. I was just Mira, a person who was learning what it meant to be human through the eyes of someone truly kind." Before Marcus could respond, the sound of weapons charging came from outside the warehouse. The hunters were moving in for the capture. But within seconds, a brilliant beam of light descended from the sky above the warehouse. A massive ship materialized out of thin air, cloaking technology shutting down to reveal a vessel of impossible beauty and power. It was sleek and elegant, and it moved with purpose and authority. The hunters scattered like insects, running back to their vans in panic. They had no weapons that could match what was descending from the sky. Within minutes, they were gone, fleeing in their vans as fast as they could drive. A platform of light descended from the ship, hovering just above the warehouse floor. Mira took Marcus's hand firmly. "Come with me," she said. "Please." Marcus looked into her violet eyes, and he knew that everything had changed forever. He stepped onto the platform with her, and they rose together toward the massive ship waiting above. The interior of the Valerian ship was unlike anything Marcus had ever imagined. Everything seemed to be made of light and energy, held together by forces he could not understand. The walls glowed with soft colors that shifted and changed like living things. The floor beneath his feet felt solid, but it seemed to respond to his presence, adjusting itself to make walking comfortable. The air smelled like nothing he had experienced before, clean and pure and somehow alive. Mira led him through corridors that seemed to stretch for impossible distances. Tall beings with features similar to Myra's moved past them, their expressions ranging from curiosity to shock at seeing a human on their vessel. They whispered to each other as Marcus passed, pointing and staring. He felt very small and very out of place, a fragile human in a world of impossible technology and advanced beings. Finally, they arrived at a large chamber that served as the command center of the ship. A massive holographic display showed the entire solar system, with Earth highlighted in the center. Around the display stood several Valerian officials, their faces showing signs of deep concern and worry. When Mira entered the chamber, every single being stood at attention and bowed deeply. "Your Majesty," they said in unison. "Welcome back. We are relieved to see you alive and well." Mira moved to the center of the chamber, and suddenly her entire presence seemed to change. She stood taller, and an aura of power and authority surrounded her. This was not the gentle woman Marcus had come to care for. This was Queen Mirathel, leader of an empire that spanned across the stars. "I have called this council to discuss the future of Earth," she announced. "We must decide the fate of this planet and its inhabitants." The debate began immediately. One elder, a tall being with silver hair and stern features, stepped forward to speak. "Your Majesty, the human species has a history of violence and conquest," the elder said. "Their wars have killed billions of their own people. They pollute their own world. They destroy the very resources that support their survival. They are self-destructive and dangerous. I recommend that we mark Earth as a restricted zone and leave them to their own fate. If they destroy themselves, then it is the result of their own actions." Another official, younger and with a more hopeful expression, disagreed strongly. "But Your Majesty, humans also possess remarkable innovation and creativity. They have created art and music of extraordinary beauty. They have shown acts of kindness and sacrifice that rival the highest values of our own people. Perhaps they could become valuable allies. Perhaps they deserve a chance to join the greater community of civilizations." The debate continued for hours. Some council members argued for complete withdrawal from Earth, suggesting that humans were too unstable and unpredictable. Others argued for immediate conquest and colonization, suggesting that Earth's resources could benefit the Valerian collective. Still others proposed observation and eventual contact when humanity had evolved further in their development. Marcus listened to it all, feeling the weight of knowing that the fate of his entire species was being decided in this chamber. These beings were discussing whether humanity should be destroyed, enslaved, ignored, or welcomed. It was overwhelming and terrifying. He looked at Mira, wondering how she could bear the responsibility of making such a decision. Finally, Mira raised her hand, and silence fell over the chamber immediately. Every being present turned their attention to their queen. "I have listened to all of your arguments," Mira said, her voice calm but firm, "and I have made a decision. I propose something different from all of these options." The council members leaned forward, eager to hear their queen's wisdom. "I propose a year of cultural exchange," Mira announced. "I will remain on Earth along with a small diplomatic contingent. We will establish peaceful contact with Earth's governments. We will share knowledge and learn about each other. We will study humanity not from a distance, but by living among them, understanding their hopes and their dreams and their fears." "Your Majesty," one of the elders protested. "This is highly irregular. No queen has ever." "I am aware that this is unprecedented," Mira interrupted. "But I have already learned more about humanity in these past weeks than any of you have learned in your entire lives. I have seen their capacity for kindness. I have witnessed their willingness to help a stranger without knowing what they were helping. I have experienced their genuine desire to understand others, even when those others are completely different from them." She turned and looked directly at Marcus, and her violet eyes were filled with something that looked like affection and respect. "After one complete rotation of this planet," Mira continued, "I will make a final decision about Earth's future. If I find that humanity is worthy, we will forge an alliance and offer them protection from hostile species in the galaxy. We will share technology and knowledge to help them flourish. If I find that they are not ready, we will respectfully withdraw and leave them to develop on their own. Either way, this decision will be made with full understanding and compassion, not from a place of fear or judgment." The council was divided in their response. Some seemed pleased with this compromise. Others clearly disagreed but accepted their queen's authority. The debate continued, but Myra's decision was final. As queen, her word was absolute law. The ship descended back toward Earth, landing in a hidden location in the mountains far away from any human settlements. Mira emerged with her diplomatic team, cloaking technology protecting them from detection. She turned to Marcus and extended her hand in a gesture she had learned from observing human culture. "I ask that you be my guide," she said. "Not as my servant but as my partner. Show me your world. Show me your people. Help me understand if humanity truly deserves the stars." Marcus took her hand without hesitation. Her skin was warm and soft, and her grip was gentle but confident. "I will show you everything," Marcus replied. "I will show you the beauty and the ugliness. I will show you people who are kind and people who are cruel. I will show you the truth of what it means to be human." As the sun rose over the mountains, Marcus and Mira stood together, a janitor and a queen ready to bridge two worlds. The journey between their peoples had begun, and the future of humanity hung in the balance. But for the first time since all of this had started, Marcus felt a sense of hope. Perhaps, he thought, the universe was finally ready for humanity to step into the light and claim their place among the stars.